I always like a guy with a big gon, because what they say about that is that he's not afraid to put it out there, and show what he can do.
Man, there's so many things. As
I kept talking, the innuendos continued.
Oh, yeah, baby. What's up, everybody? It's Chris Sims. It's Chris Sims Unbuttoned. And, yeah, we're talking football today, I think, unless my co-host just loses his crap again and starts talking about weird innuendos and big gongs and stuff. I don't know. We'll try to control this guy. He's a little crazy. What's up, dude? How are you?
So I kept digging a hole there. I couldn't get out of it.
It actually was amazing. It was amazing. Like, I almost want to ask him to play it back so we could listen to it one more time.
Yeah.
You know, he puts his gong out there. I mean, you couldn't have been more perfect from a guy who just doesn't talk like that. That's what's so good. We really bring you down to low levels on this pod. You've sworn on this pod by accident.
Yep.
You're talking about gongs now. You've had a few other things too that I can't remember.
Absolutely. I've made AI songs swear. I've done that.
You made AI, right? You've sweated. Your pits have sweated through.
I've done that plenty of times.
We really are showing the best sides of you here.
I was in a horse racing meeting for the Santa Anita Derby on Friday, and someone brought up in that meeting with a whole room full of NBC employees, "Hey, Ahmed, heard you talking about gongs the other day on the podcast."
Everybody turned to look at you like, "What does that mean?"
Why, Ahmed? I thought you were innocent. I go, "Of course, Chris Sims is like the worst person to have that happen with, because you're not letting that go without rehashing it several times and revisiting it then many days later."
Exactly right. We're gonna have fun with that, and we're gonna have fun with it today on the show. It's going nowhere.
The statement stands though. I do like a big gon.
I know.
Decagon, octagon. Give me all the gons.
Hey, go big or go home. I like it. I'm with you too, and we're gonna be talking about that today because we got pass rushers, and there's lots of gong talk to hit on here. All right, so it's gonna be good.
So we will do that. We've got your top 5. This is a great edge class too, because what we've seen here in the past years. Right. You got to have a quarterback. Right. Got to have that playmaker at the quarterback position, and you got to have a pass rusher. I think those may be the two most vital places to start for a team. If you don't have that, of course you got to have the big men. It all has to work together.
I think if you
give me a special playmaker on edge, give me a special playmaker on the outside rushing the quarterback.
I don't think you're wrong there. I think that if you boil it down to it, that's most teams will look at that. It's quarterback special. Somebody special on the D line, right? Yeah. Somebody. Just as Chris Jones, whatever, Nick Bosa, whoever. Somebody's got to be special on there. There's some ones to be had in this draft at defense and D tackle. First round's going to be interesting. So, yeah, we're going to hit on some guys today that I think there's a number that can go in for the first round, certainly. And I think there's 2 or 3 that, I look at to go, I think they're top 15-ish type picks there, really, and they could be off the board by the time that comes.
And from listening to you talk about it and some other people as well, the interesting thing about this edge class is that, there could be 7 guys that go in the first round, but everyone kind of has their own take on which order they should be taken.
Yes.
So it could be it could take a couple of years to figure out, which 2 of these guys
really
actually did emerge as the best one.
Yes.
So that'll be an interesting conversation. We will have that after we talk about one of the quarterbacks in this draft, because it became a hot topic. Shedeur Sanders, his pro day at Colorado got a lot of attention, him and Travis Hunter over there. And there was some video of Shedeur Sanders throwing drills, throwing to Travis Hunter. And one of the things he did caught the eye of a safety that you liked coming out of college. I think your number 1 safety, right? Andrew Cisco.
Right.
And so here's the video, and what Andrew Cisco, basically, Andre,
it's all right.
His that's his middle name. Andre Cisco, what he said was as you're watching this, he goes, "Boy, better stop patting the ball. We breaking on that early."
Yeah.
So there's the quote from my guy, Andre.
Yes.
So you saw the video beforehand.
I did. I saw all this. This is overtaking my weekend.
So we have more tweets that we'll get to here in a second.
Right.
But I just want first, when you saw Shedeur Sanders pat the ball, what'd you think?
I thought nothing of it. Nothing. Absolutely. It's being way blown out of proportion, right? And I wish we could show everything. I showed a little bit of this on Pro Football Talk today.
Okay.
All the great quarterbacks always have patted the ball. Cam Ward in this draft pats the ball quite often.
Right before he throws.
Right. And if we had the ability to show NFL highlights here on Chris Sims Unbuttoned, I would show you.
Open up the pocketbook.
But
what's it going to take?
Yeah. Well, your big gong talk is ruining all that. All right. So, but either way, I think you look at John Elway, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, they all were patters of the football every throw, almost every throw. Right? We showed Josh Allen today. We showed Patrick Mahomes. Guess what they do? Pat the ball. We showed Tom Brady, pats the ball. right? Tom Brady was obsessed with mechanics and being efficient, right? That should tell you something. The fact that only thing I do that's bad eating wise is avocado ice cream and I'm perfect and everything and I'm just an absolute scientist when it comes to playing quarterback. He did not see anything wrong with patting the football, right, before delivering it. And I think it's one of these things where defensive guys say, see it. Hey, is there something to be gleaned from a little bit? Sure. But as I said, like Josh Allen, it's 90% of the throws. Patrick Mahomes, it's 90% of the throws. They're not throwing interceptions every time they pat on the ball. Guys aren't breaking on that early and getting all over that. They're not, because it has to do more to do with the eyes than the patting of the football. That really telegraphs something when it's all said and done.
So tell me more about it, though, because, all those quarterbacks did it, right? You know, if your best friend jumped off a bridge, would you? I hear my mom saying that.
I hear you.
Like, it does seem totally unnecessary. Is there some meaning behind it?
Well, there is. There's meaning behind it because, one, sometimes you're getting ready to throw and it's not there. And what it does is just the patting of the ball gives you a little bit of a rhythm tap, a little rhythm pat or tap, whatever way you want to say it, to why quarterbacks do it is just to slow down their upper body. Like, I was going to throw it. Hold on, I got to kind of recock. And when you pat the ball, it kind of makes you turn that front shoulder a little bit and starts to create those opposites we talk about as a thrower so often, right? The top to the bottom. So it's really almost like a slowing down process of like, wait, I just like my upper body and lower body just to separate a hair more, so I'll pat the ball just so my upper body stays in there a hair longer to create that torque. I mean, you grew up in the John Elway era, right? I mean, he would drop back to pass and he'd be all over, right? I mean, that's what he did. And then he'd let it go and fly. Now, he wasn't like, the NFL wasn't like, he's patting the ball. We're jumping all over. He's throwing interceptions everywhere, that first ballot Hall of Famer that goes to the Super Bowl every other year of his career. No. It's more about, again, the eyes. If you're playing man-to-man, first off, you're not seeing the quarterback pat the ball, right? Deion Sanders wasn't playing man-to-man going, wait, did Steve Young pat it? No, I can break on the ball. No, he's covering Jerry Rice. He's trying to block him down. He's not doing that. I know there's guys in zone coverage, right, that are sitting there watching the quarterback, right? And at that time, listen, they're looking at other things, but sure, they're staring at the quarterback. It's going to be more on the quarterback in his eyes, right? It's going to be that is going to affect the DB. If you're really playing quarterback the right way in the right position, right? And let's go back to my ISO here so I can really accentuate this a little bit. I said, I drop back, right? You're always taught, keep your eyes kind of down the middle of the field. Keep your head down the middle of the field, right? Especially on the first few drop steps there, because you don't want to give anybody that lean or that glean of where you're going, right? So let's just say I have a curl to the right side. I'm going to take a 5-step drop, 1, 2, 3, 4, and really kind of like peeking out of the corner of my eye, right? Because I don't want to telegraph it and put my whole body over there to be like, hey, I'm throwing to you now. Defense, run over there, right? So you're looking, you're kind of peeking out of the corner of your eye, though, trying not to give a tell to the defense. And then I'm going to take a hitch step and boom. I pat the ball. There's no time to do that. It happens so quickly. It happens within such a normal rhythm of the throw that there's no issue there. And so I think it's overblown, certainly. And like I said, I think a lot of the great quarterbacks always have patted the ball, and I don't think interception or DB jumping on the ball has become an issue for them.
Well, especially if you're patting the ball and not throwing it, right? If it was the only time you patted the ball was right before you're about to throw it, then maybe there's something there, right? Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, even within that, like, if I throw an out route to the right, you know, like, when I'm getting ready to throw the ball, whether I pat it or not, I'm going to hit that step. Okay, let's say I don't pat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to start to do kind of like let my body sink into the ground, and I'm getting ready to throw, right? What's the matter if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then throw it?
Yeah.
It's not like the DB's like, oh, gosh, he patted this time. Now I'm all over it, right? It happens in a split-second way. It's more about eyes and body language and where you line your body up in general. And a lot of the times, like you said, they pat it more than once, so it's hard to just go, he patted it, let me break on the ball, right? I could show you Josh Allen clips where he pats the ball 12 times on the same play. So, like, good luck trying to figure that out.
Andre Sisco's breaking on every one of them.
Exactly right. And then some of the clips we showed today with John Elway, Dan Marino, they're patting the ball down the field. They see everything, too. So they know where everybody is, and they're holding them honest with their eyes and where they're looking, not worried about the patting of the football is going to be a tell to where the ball is going. So it's a little bit overblown subject.
Well, the debate raged on X.
I know.
We had a couple other players, some rivals in the NFC East going back and forth. So we had Darius Slayton.
Darius Slayton was phenomenal in the debate, really.
So he is laughing here to Andre Cisco. This is a response to him.
Yeah.
And he goes, I promise he can pat the ball and just fine if DBs was so good at breaking on ball pats, they'd all have 8 picks a year. Same guys that fall for a 2-man dagger concept and give up the dig on 3rd and long every season, all season long, talking about a ball pat. What a joke. So, I mean, that Cisco's like, dang, I've been working on my 2-man dagger concept.
What Darius Slayton is going like, you guys, like, you're talking about recognition and patting the ball, and we run, like, the same play on 3rd and long the whole year, and we're still open. You don't recognize that, right? That's kind of what he's trying to say.
That's good.
He's like, so you're so smart that you're going to be all over the patting the ball, but we run the same route on 3rd and long all the time, and you're never there to pick it off. So that's what he said. Darius Slayton was phenomenal in this.
Oh, but Micah Parsons comes back,
yeah,
a friend of the podcast, friend of ours as well. You realize at pat on the ball can be difference between a sack or a throwaway / completion.
I don't agree with that at all.
So Micah Parsons thinks that split second.
Again, that's all happening within the normal rhythm of the throw. It's just how they throw. It's not an extra thing, right? It's how they throw. So it's no different than anything else in the mechanics, right? And so that's where I don't look at it that way. Their throwing is right in perfect tapping rhythm with the normal throw. It's not disrupting and making the motion longer. That's what they do. It's part of the process. That's what it is. So, listen, he can maybe get strip sacks because, you pat the ball, maybe one hand comes off the ball a little bit. Sure, that can maybe happen. Because in the perfect world, they do teach you, keep 2 hands on the ball and do all that, right? But at the same time, as a thrower, and any good thrower knows it, at times like, I got to move in the pocket. Now the hand comes off a little bit. And there is something to that rhythm tap of, like, again, slowing down the upper body just a little bit to let it build up and go, and that's why you see quarterbacks do it. But, Micah Parsons does that. Then Darius Slayton comes back with a great tweet.
I want to defend Micah Parsons just for a second here
ahead.
Because he quite possibly may be living like in the Matrix,
Yeah.
a movie that I have seen, where he's dodging bullets, and he might view everything that way. So a ball pat for him is like 10 yards down the field. Like he can make up that much ground, and he can process it that quickly, where maybe it is a little bit different for Micah Parsons.
I don't know about that.
Okay, all right. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just saying, like,
you give him
what we have to do is
half a second or a tenth of a second.
Well, we can watch a lot of games last year that Dallas played teams with a quarterback that pat the ball. Like that's where I'm going to disagree with you there.
Okay. I don't think he's living in the Matrix,
right?
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Darius Slayton then did say he saw the same stuff you saw. Tom Brady, literally the king of getting the ball out fast, patted the ball when he threw, so actually no patting the ball is not the difference. And then Micah Parsons rightly
This is where he lost
retorted.
Me. This is where he lost me.
You can't compare, he says, Shedeur Sanders to the greatest football player ever, which I do agree with him. You cannot do that.
No, you're not. We're not comparing them. That's the point, though, Micah.
Okay.
The point is that the guy who's most obsessed with mechanics and doing everything right at the quarterback position still did this. And obviously found that it was not affecting any throws or decisions on the field or people jumping footballs, because he did it at the start of his career. He did it even more at the end of his career. So, yes, that's the point of that. And Darius Slayton is spot on by that. I mean, again, it's them. It's Phil Simms, patted the ball every throw. We talked about Joe Montana. Steve Young was an incredible patter of the ball. Brett Favre is a huge patter of the football. We talked about some of the ones today. Lamar does it, I would say, maybe about 50% of the time. When I watched back yesterday, going back through guys. So, again, it's the normal part of the throw. It's not like it's hey, he's got a hitch in his giddy up and there's a tell. It's the same thing almost every time. And it happens in such a quick manner. And can we show the Shedeur stuff again? I mean, Shedeur's pats are so quick. I mean, unless these people are Superman or Batman playing defense in the
Micah
NFL
Parsons,
right now, right? I mean, they're so like this. I mean, literally like that quick. That if he's like right here,
pat.
Boom. I mean, you're not going, oh, I saw the pat, I'm over there to intercept it now. I mean, the pat happened within the normal motion of the throw. Right? So that's what I don't agree with. And, it's a good debate they'll go on here.
All the greatest quarterbacks of all time patted the ball. Just think how great they would have been if they could have gotten that out of their game.
You're right.
All Micah Parsons and I are saying here. We love Micah Parsons, the football player.
Micah Parsons, I love him.
We love the football.
His passion on Twitter is amazing. I love his passion.
And he has an opinion.
It doesn't mean he's always right, just like I'm not always right about certain people I talk about or whatever. I understand that. This is one here where, I don't think he's right all the way. But I still appreciate the passion and the conversation.
We still love the football player Micah Parsons, but he may need to move over, because there might be a new Micah Parsons in town who looks a lot like the
Look
old
at
Micah
this guy.
This is what you call a segue, getting us away from that topic. This is the Edge rankings for 2025. You've got 5 players. You've got 3 different tiers here.
Yeah.
Overall, you think this Edge group is solid with a lot of guys that can do some special things.
I think it's better than solid, right? I think some of the guys at the top of the what we're going to talk about here are more special than they're getting credit for. And I think there's a little more depth and quality depth than at least I had heard about until I started to dive into it. I could certainly see a number of guys going off the board in the first 2 rounds, definitely. And a number of guys where I go, man, I like this guy. Like this guy, I know he's not going to be in my top 5, but this guy could be one of those guys that he gets drafted in the 3rd or 4th round and is a 10 sack a year type of guy, right?
Yeah.
Like a Jonathan Grenard, who plays for the Minnesota Vikings. Came out of Florida, didn't have a great combine. I remember when he came out, I was like, man, I like this guy. There's a lot to like, but the numbers didn't match up. I think he made our top 5 pass rushers, right? But he get drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round. Now he's a guy that's 10-plus sacks every year, right? I think there's some guys here that have that type of potential too. That's what's exciting. So there's a little bit of everything.
Tier number 1 you have,
which
is a tier by itself.
Exactly.
We have one player, as deep as this is, maybe the deepest that you've scouted of all the positions, Edge.
It's up there. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's in the top 5.
Well, that's what I'm finding out, though. Well, I'm finding out that really there's great depth in a lot of positions, right? We're not mainly talking about high-end talent at all these positions where we go, oh, those are definite superstars, but there's a lot of like, I get 14 and 15 people down the list, and I usually like that because I start to go, well, this guy won't be that good, so I'll be able to go through this kind of quickly, and I don't need to, like, measure him against the guy that I think's the 5th best. And I'll start watching and go, damn, I got to sit here and do my due diligence.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's good. Let me get to the 15th guy. Damn, he's good, too. Holy crap. Oh, I mean, so that's where I think the draft is really good this year.
It's going to be tough because there's a lot of guys, we were talking about it, that teams would love to have. Like, I'd love to have this guy on my team, and I'd love to take him 20 to 60 or something like that. But not as many guys in the 1 to 20 range, except for the guy in tier number 1 for you. He'll go somewhere there, most likely in the top 10. We'll get to exactly where he could go. Tier number 1,
most likely in the top 3, and no way out of it.
You call him the Carter Comet.
That's right.
Because
like a comet, like Halley's Comet, they only come around so often, this type of guy. That's why. Abdul Carter is that rare comet that they go, look in the night sky on April 24th, and you will see a comet that might not be seen again for another 90 years, right? And, of course, it's not 90 years or whatever, but, like, guys like this of this quality, they only come out, like, once every 5 or 6 years. I mean, this is the rare thing. These are the Von Millers, the Khalil Macks, right? Maybe a Nick Bosa where you just go, it's a slam dunk. Like, there's no, like, argument, nothing. Like, this guy is awesome, and it's just like, let's enjoy it and watch how awesome he is, right? There's not, after about the first play you turn on the film, you go, whoa, that's Abdul Carter, huh? The most explosive guy on the field, where it's just like there's a blur every time the ball gets snapped, and there's one guy that beats everybody off the ball every time. Oh, that's Abdul Carter, huh? So that's what I think jumps out about him. He's special. To be 250 and be as explosive as he is, that's rare type of stuff, right? The legs, the body, they're not perfect. I wish it was a little more rocked up. We talked about that a little bit after the combine, but damn, it's still a damn good-looking body. True edge speed, sack the quarterback pass rusher. Like, there is no doubt, as I always write, the first thing, he is an athletic freak. Pops off the screen, looks like he's moving at a different speed than everyone else in the box, right? That's what you see right away. Then, not only twitchy, right, explosive, quick and short moments, can make a blocker miss, can throw somebody off him, whatever. You saw it. I know you watched. He's pliable. You know what I said? Pliable, loose, fluid. Those are the words I use. He can get really low underneath a guard and take him on and then stay on his feet even though he was in a weird position and then bounce off it and go make a tackle, right? Or be in an awkward position in the run game taking on a blocker and you're like, damn, he's about to go down to his knee here. What? Oh, no, damn, he got the guy off him and got up and ran down the guy, right? It didn't go down. You're just like, holy crap. So he's really strong in awkward positions, too. That's the other thing you're going to like. Change of direction, side to side. Anything moving is elite with the guy, okay? He has an ability to what I call, like, we have speed to power, right? His speed to power is phenomenal because his speed is so good it's scary and everybody has to worry about that. His bend is elite. It's as good as you will see anybody bend around the edge ever in your life. That's how good he is. He's a natural at that, right? His ability to go speed to power is special. He also has quicks to power. He can win with shaking people, and he can also win with shaking you, and he gets the lineman to be like, oh, no, which way is he going to go? And then he puts his hand or his head right in the guy's chest, and he powers you, back into the quarterback. So he really has a lot of ways he can win. He's a special player, and there I'll let you butt in a little bit.
So yeah, there's a lot there, but the headline is he's fast, he's quick. He's not the biggest guy ever, but he plays bigger and stronger than his size would indicate.
Well, he's our kind of guy. I mean, from the fact of, in our podcast, we like guys that are a little reckless, a little crazy, not afraid to hey, I'm getting blocked and I'm going to spin off it and just jump in the hole and let the running back crush me, but I'm going to make the tackle, right? There's a recklessness in which he plays that I find endearing, that I go, this is the way the game has to be played. You got to play like a kamikaze freak crazy man, like Lawrence Taylor going down like a bunch of crazed dogs, going to have some fun, right? Those are those kind of guys. That's why you compare him to a Micah Parsons, who's also like that, right? So first step, elite. Explosion, elite. Overall acceleration, elite. The bend around the edge, elite. I mean, it's one thing after another. And not only that, he's great instinctive football player. He sees the ball. He's a ball hawk, right? He's really good at that. He takes on blocks really well. He can really fight through the trash in the box and kind of weave through blockers, take them on, and still get to the ball. There's not a lot of weakness with this guy. This is a special football player. He is definitely going in the top 3 picks of the NFL draft. This is insane. I mean, that's stuff right there. Ohio State, Penn State. Right. I mean, that's insane. This stuff here, look at that. That bend there, that's one of the most sickest plays of the year right there. I mean, he get his shoulder a foot off the ground as he goes around the tackle for USC. Let alone, we know the straight speed's real. You could see the aggression. Here he's being held by the Washington right tackle. Doesn't matter. Just goes around the edge. Special player, no-brainer. Micah Parsons, Von Miller. This is what we're talking about here. Top 3 pick in the draft. Awesome. Man-crushish type of guy. He's the man.
So here is what his life was like at Penn State. 3 seasons at Penn State. The first 2 as an off-ball linebacker because they had guys like Chop Robinson there. Adisa Isaac were there. And then he switches to edge this past year, and he has 12 sacks. 23.5 tackles for a loss. That led FBS, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So we did it all, played a long, long season as well. People are comparing him to Micah Parsons because Penn State, same number, same position, although Micah Parsons was more of that off-ball linebacker, and obviously he can do it all now in the NFL. What do you think? The 2 did work out together, so we have a little look of them together. What do you think when you look at Micah Parsons as a Penn State guy and what you've seen in the NFL and Abdul Carter?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, Micah, it's very similar. And Micah's got a special set of legs and butt that really make him a phenomenal football player and a specimen. But I totally see, there's Micah there in the black sweatshirt.
Yep.
You can see Abdul Carter looks bigger, looks a little thicker, honestly. Maybe a little bit broader shoulders. And he looks like he's pretty rocked up right now. And let me just say this, too. The guy is so awesome, like a Micah, he sometimes is just put in positions where you're just like, he's not going to do that in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it. I mean, they have games where they line him up over the guard. Like, you're going, he's lined up over the guard 12, 15 times this game. And he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll stop him in the run game. I'll hold up. I mean, his play strength is unreal. When he gets to the NFL, it's going to be move outside wide and be the fastest guy we've ever seen in the history of football off the edge and just stress people like that. And every now and then he'll stand up and move around and do all that. But this is a special pass rusher. This is the type of guy that can lead the NFL in sacks and do all that stuff for a number of years, not just like once or twice in his career.
I mean, obviously that is a benefit. While he might not be asked to do some of those things that he did at Penn State, he has the ability, depending on what happens with your team in the NFL and your roster and injuries.
Yes.
You have that flexibility. And
he's better than I thought. I'm not even going to lie.
So you went into it.
I went into it, and I saw him in Big Ten when we did it, and I brought him up in our pregame show, and we did Penn State, and I was like, hey, listen, we got to talk about this guy. Like, this guy's special.
Yeah.
But when I got into it more here, it was better than I thought. Because of I think the physical recklessness, just the absolute lack, just physical, just I'm going to throw my body around, kamikaze, I'm going to go for it every play. There was that aspect I guess I didn't have as great as appreciation as I should have throughout the college football season. I knew he could run. I knew he could go out around the edge. I just didn't realize he was quite the all-around football player and as physical he is. And that was the pleasant surprise. Awesome player.
So plays with a reckless abandon.
Yeah.
We love that.
Right.
The problem is sometimes you play a lot of snaps, as he did at Penn State. You play a lot in the NFL against guys that are bigger and stronger.
Yes, sir.
You could get hurt, and he was hurt this year. Doctors at the Combine found a stress reaction in his foot, consulted with doctors, decided not to have surgery, which would have been an 8-week timetable after a screw would have been inserted to prepare for his pro day. But then he did not do on-field drills at his pro day as well, citing an arm and a shoulder injury from the college football playoffs.
Right.
So that
I also think there's a little there of like,
I don't need to do it.
I've already heard from everybody in the NFL I'm going in the top 3.
Yep.
Right. So I just, what's the point of me going? So me make one bad thing or something bad happens and then what? My stock falls, whatever. There was no point. So I think there's that. But the thing you're bringing up is real. That injury history is real. Right? That's where I think it's important, and that's where I look at his body during the college football season, and I go, I hope he stays more like the video we just showed, rocked up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? Because I do think that'll help keep him healthy, a little more protective armor on the body, especially with the way he plays. And, of course, like you said, it's the NFL, and it's only going to get more intense and more physical.
Now, there is something else with a number of these guys as well, where there are either reports or rumors or some indications that there are some off the field. Some that have been reported, some that have been not.
And that's not what I do here.
That is not what you do.
I'm watching film, and I'm not into that. Now, when we get to draft night in the barn or whatever else and we start to talk, I usually have the stories on the guys and all that, and I might bring that up when we do the draft. But as of right now, I don't have all the stories on all these guys. I hear some things, and I'm right here right now just here to evaluate what I see on the football field. So just to make that clear.
So back in April of last year, so about a year ago, he was charged with a misdemeanor for assaulting a tow truck driver who was towing his car. He threw him to the ground, reportedly fractured his rib. He was placed in a year-long pretrial intervention program in July, and so that is part of the scouting, part of the whole report for Abdul Carter there, something that obviously you're just taking a look at the tape and the film, but these are things that the NFL teams are going to have to consider, not just with him, and we're going to get to some other players as well. It's like, and I don't know if I don't want to like make a gross generalization, but edge, you've got to have like quite literally like that edge.
You got to have an edge.
And so this is a position that maybe is more difficult to evaluate both off the field and on the field for the character.
No doubt.
The guy.
You don't want a Boy Scout, and for right now, I try not to judge here right now. We don't know some of these stories. I've seen a lot in my days. I've seen the tow truck driver where I've gone, no, it was the player's fault. He was bad. I've seen the tow truck driver and go, well, nope, the tow truck driver deserved to get his ass whooped, actually.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I'd be a little careful with all these situations.
100%.
Not to judge. I'll hear more about it. We'll go. Either way, I think we can all look at it and glean a little bit that the NFL isn't overly concerned because we've heard nothing like we did with Jalon Carter, right, who was the #1 pick.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew he's going to fall just because there's a few off-the-field issue things.
Sure.
Abdul Carter does not seem to have that around him. There's this incident. Yeah, people aren't going to like it. We'll see when people do their homework. We'll hear about it, whatever. We'll hear more of the details, but it doesn't feel like he's falling because of it.
So looking at your #1 edge guys in previous classes,
Right.
how many of these guys is Abdul Carter ahead of? So you had Dallas Turner last year, Tyree Wilson the year before, Aidan Hutchinson the year before that, Jalen Phillips in 2021, Chase Young in 2020, Nick Bosa in 2019. Just off college, not what they have become in the NFL, just off their college scouting.
I think he's the best one.
Out of all those guys.
I do.
Since 2019.
I do. I think I look at now. Let me go over him one more time. Bosa,
Chase Young, Jalen Phillips.
Yep, I loved him.
Aidan Hutchinson.
Right.
Tyree Wilson.
Yeah.
And Dallas Turner.
Yeah, I think I'd take him over all of them. Again, this is like as explosive as you're gonna find. As I've said, it's Von Miller, it's Lawrence Taylor type of crap.
Wow.
Micah Parsons, right? It's that's what we're looking at here. So hopefully he can be that. But like the potential for that, the body, the DNA, everything he does on the football field, it has the ability to be special.
So if you had a big board where positional value didn't factor into it at all, You didn't rank quarterbacks higher than anyone else just
I'd have a
because
hard
they're a quarterback.
time. Yeah, it'd be him or Cam Ward at 1 so far. I'm not done with O-linemen, right? I've told you that, so I'm there, and I got a few more DBs I got to do.
Yeah.
Right, but I think as a whole, no, it's those two are the top 2 guys in the draft.
So he was the favorite to be the number 2 overall pick. Yeah. But this weekend, the odds flipped. Now Travis Hunter is minus 130 to go number 2. DraftKings Sportsbook has the odds where Abdul Carter could go. And those look like this. So number 2 pick held by the Browns, plus 100. Number 3 held by the Giants. Oh, boy. Minus 125. Your New York Giants. Now the favorite.
Hey, I got a pretty good history with edge guys, I believe. Again, I've been sacked a lot. I've seen them. I grew up with Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks and some other guys, right? And some of the guys you mentioned there, too, not all those guys were top guys, and everybody's there in their list, and some of the other guys all the way.
Yeah.
But this is one here where – special, right? And I think what it feels like, and I think why the market's changed, and this is really an interesting conversation. I feel like the Browns are going to go with Travis Hunter. It feels that way. I do. I don't. Shedeur, I will be shocked if Shedeur Sanders goes in the top 3. We didn't really hit on that with the patting the ball stuff.
Yeah.
He is going to be the story of the draft, is where Shedeur Sanders goes. There's a disconnect by what the public thinks of Shedeur and what the rest of the NFL thinks of him. I'm a little higher on him than most of the NFL, right? So that's where I would say that.
Yeah, you don't have to coach him or be the GM that gets fired when
exactly.
whatever happens.
Exactly. Yeah. But it will be interesting. The Giants at number 3, they have Brian Burns. They have Kayvon Thibodeau, right? I didn't love Kayvon Thibodeau coming out. He's definitely not this guy. Right? I think Abdul Carter is special enough to where they might just go, you know what, we'll take Abdul Carter, and we'll have him across from Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. This will be his last year as a Giant, and we'll move on. That'll be something interesting for sure if that happens in this draft.
DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 sportsbook for live betting, and new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly.
Just download the app and use the promo code UNBUTTONED when you sign up.
DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Tier 1 is over.
Tier 1's
we
over.
closed Tier 1. The Carter Comet. It would have been hard to have anyone else in the Carter Comet tier.
No,
it's just
exactly.
Like it's named
that doesn't
after
make
him.
sense, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It would be weird,
right?
But we do have a Tier 2, and these are special specimens. So
they
still
are.
Very elite guys, first-round guys for sure. Top 15 picks, both these guys.
I think
in your
they
eyes?
are. They are. In my eyes, these are top 15 picks. One of them's being put there. The other one should be put there, and I believe will be there when it's all said and done.
Your number 2 edge in the class of 2025 is
Shemar Stewart, Texas A&M. Yeah. When you want to get into the second, maybe the second biggest freak in the draft. I mean, really. When it gets down to it, when you're talking about 269 pounds, 4'5'9", 158 in the 10, special numbers, long arms, which, again, long arms are a thing. That's not like a made-up, stat. Yeah. There's really something to be drawn there or looked at as far as arm length and your ability to be a top-tier pass rusher.
What if someone did believe that it was a made-up stat?
Well, I know. Well, it's one of those where it's not.
But it matters, is what you mean. It matters. It matters.
It matters. Or if you don't have it, you better have some other really special things like an Abdul Carter, where I can get low and dip around guys and do stuff like that, and I have play strength that I'm like 30 pounds bigger. Yeah. That makes up for it.
But an
right?
extra inch is a big deal.
It can be a big deal. It can be the difference in you stopping the O-lineman from getting a hold of you first and you making the first strike, and now he can't really get his hands on you to the same capacity, and now you control the wrestling match there, right? That's the big thing. This guy, here's the first thing everybody's going to talk about. Oh, production. Well, if you listen to Chris Sims and Ahmed Fareed, one of our favorite stats is the play up. And how I believe is disruption is production. So I am so sick of that conversation. Disruption is production. And there's too many plays where this guy makes freaky plays, ruins it, and somebody else gets the tackle or the sack. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to hit on this before I even hit on some of the talk of the player, right? Because the player is special. But there's other guys in this draft that are being talked about as maybe a better pass rusher or whatever, and we'll get into that a little bit. But they have 5 or 6 sacks, okay? And I'm going to just use one as true transparency, like Jalon Walker from Georgia. He's got 6 sacks or 6.5 sacks on the year. I mean, a lot of his sacks are like hustle sacks, quarterback, how to hold the ball. He broke the pocket, then he ran him down. I'm not like, wow. I think if we showed the top 20, gets after the quarterback, pressures the quarterback and do that, we're going to see Shemar Stewart way more than you're going to see a guy like Jalen Walker. So do we want just the sack number? Is that all we want? That makes us feel good? Or the fact that I saw one guy named Shemar Stewart go around the edge and dominate tackles game after game after game after game. And yeah, he didn't get the sack, and he could be better at wrapping up. But it's also college football. And college football is a different game right now. And you could play in college football. You could play their schedule this year. You could play a bunch of teams that really don't throw the ball that well. Everything's a quick throw. Everything's a screen throw. You can watch a game against Texas A&M and watch some teams and go, he really only had 6 or 7 plays the whole game where the quarterback dropped back like an NFL quarterback, had it in the pocket, was reading coverage, and there was a sack to be had, right? College football can be like that. Screens, RPOs, speed sweep, reverse, quick pass. Quarterback just looks at one guy and then runs, right, all the time. And that's not conducive to sacks all the time. So you got to keep that in mind when you talk about that a little bit. This dude is a special football player and a special specimen on top of that.
So Nick Scourton is another player at Texas A&M who we'll talk about at some point here.
Yeah.
He's getting some love.
Good
Second
player.
round maybe, first. Who knows? End of the first round if you really do love him. He had 4 sacks on the year. He had 30 hurries. Our guy Shemar Stewart had 35 hurries. And so he is getting there, getting close to the quarterback.
And all the attention's
havoc
on him, just so you know, too. And he plays out of position maybe more than any other of these pass rushers. I mean, Shemar Stewart, I know you're Mr. Professional watch the film guy, too.
That's what I do now.
That's what you do. I mean, he plays nose tackle a number of plays in every game. Like he's never going to do that in the NFL. But he's such a freak of nature. They were like, oh, he can handle it here and there, and we'll get some other, so we can get the best guys on the field. We'll put him in nose tackle. He plays a lot of plays where he is asked to pass rush, but he never lets get wide. He's never allowed to get wide. He's either head up on the tackle or he's barely on the outside shade of him. That's not what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. The NFL, they're going to go get wide. Use that explosive first step and that incredible strength and power. Now you can build it up on top of that with extra movement, right? So he wasn't necessarily put in spots of I go, this is conducive to him just taking over. That'll be different in the NFL. And that's where I love the guy. And guys like this, usually when they get into an NFL environment and they start to realize, if I do this, I can make $30 million a year. And, this is the first time, I have a coach yelling at me going, you're not playing physical enough or you're not doing this enough and all that. Usually these guys' games raise because of that. Let alone you got guys in your room going, man, if I had your skills, I'd be effing people up. I'd be killing people. So what do you think? He's going to take that that's great. So he starts to go, well, I'm going to start effing people up and doing it, right? So these are environments that usually these freak of natures kind of thrive on. And I haven't even got to the player yet, but we'll get there in a second.
6'5", 267, still just 21 years old, turns 22 in November, was a top 10 recruit out of high school, the number 1 edge rusher in the nation in the 2022 high school class. And so he's been a guy.
He's Myles Garrett-ish freak of nature we're talking here.
So you want to take a look at his gun?
Yeah, let's look at his gun. It's got to be impressive.
It's a nonagon, very impressive. For Shemar Stewart here at the Combine, he knew his numbers would be impressive, and so he was like, let me do it. Let me do all the tests here. Vertical jump, 96th percentile, 40-yard dash, 90th percentile among edge. Broad jump, 98th percentile. Arm length, 75th percentile. Wingspan, maybe even more important
because he's got big square shoulders too.
Arm length, 96th percentile. And so the only thing that's smaller there is the hand size at 33 percentile, but physically, athletically a freak and has the size and the strength.
He's really one of the safest picks in the draft. That's the first thing you got to know.
Despite the production. Because there are coaches in the NFL, if he's such a freak, why is he not producing?
Yeah.
You laid out all the reasons why and all that stuff there.
No, but I hear you. But he's safe in the fact that you're not going to have to worry about him ever being physically overmatched or anything like that. Him being a bust is going to be he still was our starter for 7 years in a row, right? That's going to be him as a bust. It's not going to go any more than that. Then the ceiling has a chance to be one of the greatest players in the history of football. That's the kind of talent and physical makeup the guy has. That's what he has. You could see he has it all right from the get-go. Elite first step, a little deceiving because it's a longer, like, powerful step. So you might watch Abdul Carter and go, damn, those were a quick 2 or 3 steps he got off the ball, right? And you go, woo, his feet are flying there. This guy is more like gets out of the three-point stand, and that first stride is like 4 feet long. And so it doesn't look quite as maybe fast as a Carter from Penn State. And it's not, but it's not far off from it, all right? Now, you get into that. He's a bigger human than all of them. His quicks are elite. His strength at the point of attack is unreal. I mean, again, he's asked a lot of times to go head up on offensive tackles and play like 3-4 and 2-gap and do stuff like that. It's freakish, right? Like freakish good. His ability to get off his blocks is as good as you're going to find. He can 2-gap and do that stuff. His speed to power is awesome, right? Best in the draft. His speed to power is the best in the draft because he sometimes doesn't even do speed. He just goes, I'm going to run you over with power, and here it comes, and he still beats you. He does not have many pass rush moves. I like that. Those are learnable things. He's getting to the quarterback and getting pressure and creating havoc without still some major tools that he can learn to grow and be better at. I think those are positive things, right?
Yeah.
Gets a lot of attention from other teams too. That's the other thing you can't go. Teams move their tight end to where he is. They try to double team him. There is a lot of that goes on with attention to him, which I think tells you a lot too about his game and how good he is.
Yeah. So here are a couple of things like you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Lance Zierlein, NFL.com says he is long and sudden off the snap, but hasn't learned to weaponize his hands. PFF says he hasn't mastered many pass rush moves and wins mainly off athletic ability right now. Those are negatives, but they're also positives.
They are.
Like if you're an NFL team, those are positives.
You're
like,
going to go, he's doing this, he's
strong.
beating these guys without, we didn't even teach him a swim move yet. We didn't even teach him how to, inside stab with the inside arm and do, he's a beginner with that.
Now, the concern would be is if he did get some of that coaching, but for whatever reason he's not able to do it at the college level.
Right, and that's what they're going to have to know, right? And but just from my little time with him at the NFL Combine, he doesn't seem like a dummy. He's very charismatic. He seems like he likes the game, right? He had a clue. He was excited to talk about football. I'd be shocked at that. And on top of that, too, he's a good football player. He always knows where the ball is. He's got good instincts, right? He really does. Like I said, he doesn't get to get wide in the NFL. His bend is maybe not as good as Abdul Carter or maybe another guy we're going to talk about here in a second, but it's still good. It's still top-notch good, right? As I talked about, he has a little bit of a spin move. I like that was one thing that showed up every now and then. To end it up, I just wrote, he people up at the point of attack. His power is the best of anyone. He's the safe pick. He's a high ceiling. He has a high ceiling. He's really a top 15 pick. Yes, does he need to wrap up a little bit more and tackle better that way? Because he does let a lot of people out of his arms grasp sometimes, even with the sacks.
Sure.
But it's not like he's soft. Nobody messes up and crushes pulling guards and linemen more than this guy. He is physical. He brings it. And you know what I kind of thought of as I was watching him too? It's got a little Will Anderson feel.
Okay.
Where you're asked to do, and where I was wrong about Will Anderson, where, he was asked to do stuff where I go, he's not going to do this in the NFL. They're not going to. Will Anderson had the same thing. They kind of played a 3-4 front, remember? And he was kind of playing head up or barely outside these offensive tackles, and it led to some underwhelming film. This guy's film is never underwhelming, but it doesn't lead to the sack production you want all the time.
He told you guys this at the Combine when you sat down with him to interview him. Sometimes the stats don't replicate the impact. I just went out there, did what I was told, did it to the best of my ability. On who he models his game after, you guys asked him, he goes, Julius Peppers. He goes, that was an F the play-up guy. Did he come up with that first, or did you feed him that? And then he
might have heard me say that. I don't know, but I'm not even sure how that went down.
He goes, I also watch Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa, so he watches the NFL, which is good too.
Definitely. And I have an experience with Julius Peppers, and yes, it's Julius was a bigger man than even this guy was. But this is a special football player, and I think this is one again. You're seeing it right now. At the Combine, he was being listed at maybe at the end of the first round, top of the second. You're starting to see now, all of a sudden now he was in the 20s. Now he's creeping in the teens here and there in certain places. NFL teams are going to look at him and go, Well, what? There's only thing we can talk about is that he should have had a few more sacks. He let the quarterback out of his hands a few times. He didn't get that, definitely. That's the only thing. And I think, again, I'm not going to blow it out of proportion. I think there's plenty of good to go around, and he's got superstar future in front of him.
There was one thing I was listening to Todd McShay's podcast talking about some of the edge guys, and he brought up something interesting. He was like, this is a guy that scouts have a little bit of a hard time putting their neck out there for because – the production wasn't there, and so that if it doesn't translate into the NFL, it's
scary.
like then you've wow, you suggested someone who didn't get it done in college, not doing it in the pros, and now you're in trouble. Or at least if you had the production, be like, well, I mean, look at that.
That's what happens. That's the $1 million conversation, right? And sometimes that's where I feel like decision makers go a little that way because it's a little cover your own ass. Like, well, I mean, you saw what he did in college, right? Like a little bit like the Marvin Harrison conversation last year. Yeah, I mean, it's Ohio State. Everybody thinks he's the best. The stats are good. Let's just pick it safe. And if it doesn't work out, it's like, wait, everybody else said he was awesome too, except for Chris Sims, right? Yeah. So there is definitely part of that makes a decision maker feel warm and cozy at night to know there's some production behind it to back it up.
Your number 2 edge in the Tier 2 special specimens, one more player to put in this tier. Your number 3 edge for 2025 is
Mike Green from Marshall. Another explosive, athletic, pliable, more along the lines of Abdul Carter as far as that player. Maybe a little longer than Abdul Carter, but it's not Shemar Stewart where it's this big, strong, just absolute Greek god specimen. This is a little bit more of a guy that's got length. He looks like more of a speed rusher, but don't get it confused. He's not. I mean, he's got a great body. He's got, a high cut waist, long legs, a high ass on top of that. Okay, I'm giving you're gonna give Gone talk. I gotta give some high ass talk here.
What if we get banned from YouTube?
I don't think so. But, another one right away, just like the other 2 guys you talked about, and I'm sure you saw this too, it doesn't take long to know where this guy is. It's the first guy off the ball. It's the freakiest guy on the field more times than not. Elite athlete, movement, everything, high level, has it all. Again, another guy that can win in awkward positions, has good bend. His bend's not as good as Abdul Carter, but it's better than Shemar Stewart. I'll say that, okay? He has that. He's probably got a better first step than Shemar Stewart. Not by much, but yeah, I'd probably give him the edge there. Still not as good as Abdul Carter, right? He plays reckless. I do love that too. He's physical. He throws his body around. This is not just some I just want to come off the edge and just get a sack every now and then. He gets involved in the run game. He mixes it up inside the box. He throws his body around that way. So I really do like that. First step is impressive, like I talked about. Overall, good athlete. And not just some straight liner, like I said, really. He's got change of direction ability. His ability to be in one gap and then, the ball's going in the gap inside me and kind of just shuffle down or jump in that gap to make a tackle. It all jumps off the screen when you see it. He's got the ability to win with quicks like we talk about. This is I'm amazed by some of these guys, how they win with quicks. Mm-hmm. The fact that they can shake the offensive lineman and just get them leaning one way and then just get enough advantage to then put on the speed to beat them, or like we talk about, get them just lean in one way and then they go quicks to power and push the guy back into the quarterback's chest. He can do all that type of stuff. Really, really like the football player. I got more to say, but he reminds me of Brian Burns of the New York Giants.
Ooh, wow.
That would be the guy that he reminds me of more than anybody.
So 2 years at Virginia and then 2 years at Marshall, and it was this last year where he led football with 17 sacks. So you go from one guy who had 1.5 to the ultimate reversal in the production in 17 sacks. Now was at Marshall, Sun Belt Conference Defensive Player of the Year. We have some video of him from his pro day, so there are the numbers. You see the tackles were up, and really that was the first year where he was the guy, at Virginia, and we'll talk about a little bit what happened at Virginia with him, but didn't play a whole lot, and goes to Marshall and plays a ton, and clearly does what he did last year. We have some video. Here's him at his pro day. What stands out to you, Chris?
Well, just a good-looking athlete, right? I mean, he doesn't even look like he's 250, right? It just looks like it's like, wow, what is he, a big safety? I don't know, but you see those quads and legs there. I do like that, certainly. His body overall just speaks to edge, speed, pass rusher. And then, of course, there's more than just speed. There is the physicality element. He's very good at holding the edge. He can take on big people and hold his ground at the point of attack. He's never really overpowered that way. Does pretty good against double teams, even for a guy his size. What were you going to say there?
So his power.
Yeah.
And I think people maybe thought, like, you watch the tape and you're like, wow, he's got power, but it's in the Sun Belt Conference. And then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and that's, I think, where this all takes another level. Now he's a projected top 20 pick in mock drafts, and there was this rep against an Oregon tackle, Josh Connerly.
Right, where he just dominates
He dominates him, and Connerly is a guy that's got a first-round grade on, I think, at him right now. And so here's the rep if you're watching on Peacock and YouTube. And so this is where Mike Green, as they say, enter the chat.
Well, when you have an elite first step, right? You have an elite first step, and you can get that offensive lineman or that tackle. They're so worried about, I got to get back with depth, right? Because this guy might go around the edge. I got to get my feet moving. And then when you're physical and kamikaze like this is what happens. Because the tackle's like, I got to get my feet going. I got to get out there. And then before he can even get his weight underneath him to anchor in, it's too late. Because he's still worried about the speed rush, and now Mike Green's put that outside foot in the ground. And he just go, I'm going to just drive my body right into you, and you're going to have no chance. And that's what he's special at. He's got all that type of stuff, right? Gets off blocks well, can weave through the traffic, just like our man Abdul Carter inside the box, does stuff there, avoids blockers, takes them on, still gets the ball. So I loved all of that. The level of comp is certainly the thing you worry about a little. Yeah, it's not a week in, week out. You get to see like unreal, awesome tackles from the SEC or the Big Ten going against it. But you watch the Ohio State game and you go, he certainly belongs. He's certainly the best edge defender in this football game. I don't give a damn who's on Ohio State or whoever else. He jumps out. So I don't think you have to worry about that, right? I don't think there's a worry there. Anything else I want to hit on?
Yeah, and the reason he's behind Shemar Stewart is just basically he's not quite the freak.
I just trust Shemar Stewart's measurables, the size and strength a little bit more, okay? That would be the big difference here. This is awesome football player. I don't want to say poor man's version, lesser version than Abdul Carter, right? And Abdul Carter is what we're talking is special. I don't think he's quite that physically elite like at Abdul Carter. I think Shemar Stewart is also not as physically elite as Abdul Carter. Maybe not quite as athletic as Mike Green, but barely less than. And then I have no concerns about Shemar Stewart with any power strength concerns at all. And you get into the NFL a little bit, and let's little food for thought, right? Yeah. There's not a lot of these 250-pound guys leading the NFL in sacks. When you really get into the guys that are leading the NFL in sacks, they're bigger people. They really are. And sometimes I think we miss that a little bit. Again, you get into Myles Garrett, who's 270 plus. Trey Hendrickson, who's 270 plus, or at least high 260s. Okay? Then you got a Nick Bonito, who's this kind of guy that we like, and we liked him coming out in the draft, right? He was third in sacks this year. But then you got guys like Jonathan Greenard, again, who's 268. Danielle Hunter, who's like 268, 270, right? And so those are the things we do have to at least talk about a little bit.
Sure.
Right? There's not as many speed, 250 awesome pass rushers in football as you think. A lot of the top ones, again, Nick Bosa is closer to 270. TJ Watt, it's high 250s, probably low 260s, right? So that 250, 248 is a spot where you go, hey, these guys don't always hold up against some of these tackles who have pretty good feet that are giant guys, right? And that's what you worry about a little bit.
It's a question. And for Mike Green also, there were questions about why he left Virginia. He was accused of sexual assault while he was there, not charged. It was the second time that he had been accused of sexual assault, one time when he was at high school in Virginia as well. Has not been charged. He says he was not questioned on either one or the one in Virginia specifically. The head coach at Virginia at the time in 2022 said Mike Green, he's just no longer active with the team anymore. That's just where I'm going to leave that one. As we've said before, it's just, honestly, when anything like this happens, it's sad for everyone involved. Yep. It's not a good scenario. Clearly, obviously, it goes without saying, but we don't know exactly what happened. But that, if there is talk out there about Mike Green and off-field, questions and concerns, that is what they're referencing.
That's what it is. And there's another one where I get the sense, at least for now, because you see most mock drafts, and he's just in the top 20 now, almost everywhere, where, again, I'm just connecting dots through my history of football. when you start to see that, that usually tells me that people are comfortable to a degree, right? They're comfortable. Some of these guys that are doing the mock drafts, they're hearing from scouts or other people in the NFL that go, yeah, there's some off-the-field worries, but we don't think it's that bad. We've done our homework here. We'll see. At least it seems that way. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
But special athlete, like I said, his speed to power, I think, could be a little bit better, right? His overall physicality is damn good. I guess I could. There's maybe a guy or two that are better than him. Shemar, Stewart, Abdul Carter, even another guy we're going to talk about in a few minutes that I would probably say is a little more physical than he is. But damn, good football player, and just would be shocked if he's on the board past 20. I don't think that happens. He's somewhere 10 to 20, I would think.
3 very, very good football players we have talked about already. We have 2 more very, very good football players who are in tier number 3 for you, and we'll talk about them coming up next. Back here on Chris Sims Unbuttoned. It is Edge Day.
Edge Day.
Your top 5 2025 Edge rankings.
Some more good ones coming up.
Very good ones.
Yeah.
So first rounders already. Have you said how many first rounders you think there could be in the Edge?
I think.
Like, what would be a good over-under?
Yeah, I'm going to say. I'm going to say 6.
6.
Yeah. I might have a guy here at number 5 that I don't know if he goes in the first round. He's my number 5 guy. I like him better than some other guys that they're saying are going to go in the first round, as you know.
And other teams might
we'll
have
see.
the same
We'll
opinion
see where
as
it
you
goes.
do. All
But
right.
yeah, I think it's 6 is where I would kind of put it at.
Tier
right now.
number 3 for you is high ceiling, but can they reach it? So we've got some guys who could be the studs. Hey,
Yeah.
who knows? Could be the best edge in this class.
Could be.
You never
They're
know.
players. They're just not perfect, right?
Yep.
They're not perfect.
You
There's
got
some
things-
things that you just like to see or see how it translates to the NFL a little bit.
Which is what the draft is, right? You're trying to figure out the current day value and where you should take them.
Exactly.
Mitigate the risk. Your number 4 edge for this year is
James Pearce Jr., University of Tennessee, the Volunteers, Rocky Top. Oh, baby. That's right. A body that's similar to Mike Green, right? It's a longer type of body, a little more linear. Right? I would say he's a little more narrow in his shoulders and his hips maybe than Green. Green had more of a butt and a leg that I liked, let alone I thought his arms were a little longer looking altogether, right? So those are the things just to paint a picture of what the guy looks like. But it looks like an athlete, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is a guy that, speed, disruption, edge guy who plays extremely physical and the reckless abandon that I love. This guy does that. There's no doubt about it. Okay? Elite athlete in every way. First step, twitchy as hell, really great all-around football player, gets off blocks really well. He's got good quicks, right? The change of direction. He's a real football player like we've talked about with some of these other guys. Takes on blocks, get off it, knows where the ball is, knows how to shoot gaps, get to the ball, whatever. He's got all that type of stuff. So he's natural in that way. He's physically violent. The first step get off, it's right up there with Abdul Carter or Green from Marshall, okay? It's right up there with it. I don't think it's quite as good as either one of those. I would give them the edge, but it's in the same category as far as first step, quickness, explosion. I like all that. Can win with the quicks like we've talked about, right? Can shake people, do that. Does a good job with that. But he does not have the bend those other guys have. That, to me, is the biggest difference between, all right, so we have a little bit of a shorter arm. His first step is not as good as the other 2 guys as far as Penn. I think it's about equal to Shemar Stewart, but Shemar Stewart's 20 pounds bigger, right? So that there's a difference there. And then I think with the bend, that's not on the same level as Abdul Carter, Mike Green, or even another guy we're going to talk about here in a minute after this, right? But plenty strong at the point of attack, holds his ground versus offensive tackles in the SEC, in the run game, whatever, all the time. Gets asked to do things where you go, in the NFL, he's not going to be asked to do this a lot either, but he's a physical freak, so they do that, right? Side-to-side movement, quickness, disruptive as hell. I think overall, other than Abdul Carter, I think he was the most reckless, aggressive of anybody at the outside linebacker position, right? He does have speeds to power, the quicks to power, like I talked about. He's an awesome football player. He's also the guy I'm most concerned with how his pass rush will translate in the NFL of the top guys, okay? Bend and arm length are a little concerning. He reminds me of a Leonard Floyd. It's a really good football player, but I don't think it's ever going to be like 12, 14 sacks a year. It's not going to be that.
He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school.
Yeah, I get it.
Charlotte, North Carolina, number 11 overall player in the 2022 class. So 3 years at Tennessee. 2 years ago, in 2023, he had an SEC high 10 sacks. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but more attention to him, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So 7.5 sacks this past year. And so he has a nonagon. It's an interesting-looking gun here.
It is. Well, I bet you it's this is what I would expect it to be.
As some of the things that you've already pointed out.
Right.
So when you talked to him at the Combine, remember you asked him what his 40-yard dash expectation was going to be, and he said 4.5, and then you go, he's being humble. He's gunning for 4.4s, and he got it.
Yeah.
4.47, I believe, was the final time. So you see the 40-yard dash, 97th percentile. The 10-yard split was very good as well. But that weight is in the 7th percentile.
Exactly. And you talk about that with
arm length.
With the arm length is in the 21%, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where you worry about. It's the weight with that, and that's why I made him 4, basically. It's that right there.
Because you look at maybe frame, 87th percentile height, so he's taller. You think, oh, maybe he's got more frame to put on some pounds, but then you factor in arm length, and you're like, maybe
exactly
not.
Right. Maybe not. Maybe a little bit more. No, I think he's always going to be kind of just the rangy, athletic, explosive guy, and then we're going to see, right? You even saw there, too, with his vertical jump. It wasn't very special.
Yeah, 23rd percentile.
That's odd. That's odd. And I think that a little bit speaks to, again, maybe that bend, that narrow hip a little bit there, maybe not quite as good as the other guys of, what would I want to say, rolling his hips underneath him to lock out his power, right? Sometimes you get like that power rush. You want to be able to get it and then like extend, right, to where your body and your hips are all coming through. So you're like, all your forces are going into that hand. Those are things where you look at and go, I don't think he's as good as some of the other guys in that department, right? Abdul Carter, Shemar, Stewart, they can be in those positions like coming around the edge, like extended as they're coming around the edge and still extend their body and do that. And that's what I talk about sometimes with like the hip tightness, the bend, the fluidity. There's some of that, and that's where he lacks just a little bit in those departments.
So there are conflicting evaluations of his ability against the run game.
Yeah.
Here, Daniel Jeremiah at NFL.com said against the run, he does play bigger than his weight, which suggests he sets a firm edge. Now, there is a offensive line coach that Bruce Feldman talked to that said, quote, he wants no part of setting the edge and stopping the run. He reminds me a lot of former Falcons first-rounder Vic Beasley.
Huh.
So
no, he's more of a physical football player. I don't see – this is where you got to be careful. I don't necessarily look at them as a defense that's always was asking their defensive ends to set the edge and do that stuff, right? They were sometimes it's like you got this gap and somebody's supposed to come around and get the edge for you. I have no problem with his ability to hold his ground against bigger people and set the edge, and he can do that. He can. They had a defense that moved a lot, did things. Right, he might be in the D gap outside, and you go, well, he's supposed to set the edge, and then they say set hut, and you're like, no, actually, he's a gap in. That's not his edge. It's not. Right, so we'll see. I'd be shocked. He seems like a very serious football player, serious into his craft. I don't think that stuff's going to be an issue for him. He is definitely more physical than Vic Beasley was. That's not even comparable. I do not like that comparison at all.
So again, there is some smoke with some off the field character. I don't even know what you would call it because it is pretty vague out there. Nothing specific has been brought up, but there is some. And I hate to be that guy that's just like, hey, there's some people out there saying bad things about you. How do you react to this? There is no reaction to that. But former Tennessee quarterback Eric Ainge responded to some of those vague rumors out there and said James Pearce doesn't want to talk to the media or me or you. Dude just wants to play football, and he's elite at it. If I'm an NFL team, sign me up for the baller that just loves football. People calling that, quote-unquote, character issues, and he rolls his eyes to that. So just want to say, again, that's another thing with him that's out there is character, but we don't know the guy. We would hang out with all of these players for a day if they would let us, so we could evaluate ourselves.
He's this guy. I just think you hear he's intense, right? Even with the quotes you've seen from his coaches and stuff like that. He's intense. It's always.
And you got that when you talked to him,
definitely.
Right?
He was about his business. He couldn't wait for the next day to show you what he's got. Like I said, he wanted to be boisterous and brag, but he kept it under wraps and was humble and was like, I'm going to show you what I do on the football field. Yeah. I really like the football player. I think he goes somewhere at the end of the first round, 20 to 32, probably 22 to 32, somewhere in that range. But, again, this type of athlete with this type of size, the aggression, the physicality, all of that, there's not many of these guys out there. He will get drafted in the first round.
He said to you, my dad says I remind him of LT. And so if he becomes LT, you're wrong on your ranking. 4 is way too low for him. But he is number 4 right now in tier number 3. Also in tier number 3, your number 5 edge. Our producer, BC guy, is loving this one. Your number 5 edge in the 2025 class is?
I'm going to mess his name up again. That's what I'm...
No, you're not. You're going to nail it.
Donovan Ezeiruaku.
Yeah, you got it.
Boom.
There we go.
I had to have Pete said it along with me. I'm cheating. I cheated. Donovan Ezeiruku from Boston College.
Ezeiruaku, yeah.
Ezeiruku.
Yeah.
Donovan Ezeiruku from Boston College.
Boom.
Boom. Put that on a reel, okay? I like this guy. I know I'm a little higher on him than most.
6'2" and a half, 248. So he is smaller.
Right. Yeah. But, again, how much smaller is he than the guy that we just talked about?
Not much.
Right. A half an inch?
Yeah.
In the same weight?
2.5 inches shorter.
Okay.
Same weight.
All right. 2.5 inches shorter. Longer arms. Right? Some numbers that jump out. Right? And these are like things I looked at after you watched the film. 6'9" 3-cone drill. 4'19" or 6'9" L drill, 4'19" 3-cone drill.
You're already talking about his decagon here.
I am a little, because I know that the talk around this guy is that maybe he's not as physically freaky as some of the other guys, right?
19th percentile in height, 11th percentile in weight.
Yeah, so those are going to be the things he's going to have to fight against. Now, another great-looking athlete, right? Similar to the Abdul Carters and the Mike Greens, right? Not quite as long as them altogether, but more rocked up than them. More like his arms, his shoulders, he's rocked up. Legs are not real thick, okay? But they're muscular, that's for sure. Arms stand out because they're freakishly long. When he stands there, when you see him standing on the line of scrimmage, you kind of go, oh, his arms are longer than the rest. And then you look on your, all the stuff you got, and you go, oh, they are longer. Okay, that's good, right? Now, he's like smooth athlete. It doesn't jump off to you to go, oh, wow, that's the most electric first step ever. But I also would say, too, a little deceiving, I think, a little bit like Shemar Stewart in the fact that it's a long first stride. For a guy, again, we start to sit here and talk about and go, we're worried about his first step. We're worried about his first step. And I keep going, wait, but he's getting around everybody's edge. He's around the edge again. 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 The first step must be somewhat okay, right? I think it is a little deceiving with how he runs and how he plays, right? He's not as twitchy or as explosive as a Carter, but don't get me wrong, it's still good. Right? This kid is a little bit more about length, long strider, gobbles up ground that way. First step, real good, but it's not elite. I said that. He has incredible strength, though, in those long arms. That is where I think the first game I watched was Florida State, and I was just like, holy crap. I mean, he's just going to control this tackle blocking him. He's 248, and he's blocking him and moving him around and holding his ground like he's 348. He had no problem at all. So those are the things that jumped out to me right away, right? Incredible strength, has speed to power, gets off blocks really well because of those long arms. I mean, he can shed people. I love that about him. And then here's somewhere where he is elite. So the arms are elite. He's bendable, pliable. I would put his bend up there with anybody in this draft other than Abdul Carter. I think his bend is second only to Abdul Carter, right? So you couple that with the long arms and the crazy strength, right? That is where I like this guy. He's got good quicks. Side to side, he's good there. He can win with quicks just like the other guys we've talked about too. He is an awesome overall athlete. Very pliable. But not as pliable as a Carter. That's what I wrote. I'm holding everybody to those kind of, that's how I talk to myself. I hope everybody can appreciate that, because that's how I got to keep a running list of how I compare and how I don't have a grading system with a computer system like an NFL team. So I got to have you kind of here in my writing and my thoughts. Has good hands against the pass, ability to take on big blockers and disengage. Wish he was a little more reckless physical. That was something I wrote at the end. Really good football player. Right? Not just some speed pass rusher. I like him a lot. And I think he's a guy that, I wrote down 25 to 40. I know I might be a little higher than most.
Maybe not.
So we'll see where this goes. But there's to me, this is one of the guys that's not being talked about enough in the draft process.
Yeah, projected late first round, early second round in mocks
so he's
right
in
now.
there.
But it's still, yeah, to your point, a little under the radar. Was a 3-star recruit out of high school in Williamstown, New Jersey. What's going on with these New Jersey kids being under the radar? I got to get more pub for
I don't know. Well, because
from
you know
your
what?
state.
What's happened in New Jersey, all right, that's actually a really good question because Jersey is like deep in talent. I tell people this all the time. Jersey players in the NFL, last time I looked, was only behind Florida, California, Ohio, like South Carolina. Players in the NFL like Jersey with either 5th or 6th in all of football. There's deep. But what's happened in Jersey and why I think some of this is happening is they've let the Catholic schools overtake the state. And there's like 6 or 7 teams that just stand above the rest that are like they play national schedules. And if you're not on one of those teams, everybody thinks, oh, he must not be that good. He's not on one of these, 6 or 7 or 8 teams that play everybody, right? And you get lost in the shuffle. And if you went to my old public school, the quality of competition is not the same anymore. You'd question it. You'd be like, I don't know, is this Chris Sims any good? I mean, he looks like he's a foot taller than everybody out there. Like, who's he playing against, right? And I think that's affected some of these guys coming out of New Jersey because we've had quite a few we've talked about already.
Well, went to BC, not the biggest football powerhouse out there, played 4 seasons, but this past year had 16.5 sacks. That tied Harold Landry's single-season school record, was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, won the Ted Hendricks Award.
He's
for
a
the nation's
natural
top
pass rusher, man.
defensive end. And speaking of his decagon, as you were earlier, the height and weight on the lower end, but all of those, 20-yard shuttle, 3 cone drill, vertical jump, the wingspan, even though he's not that tall or heavy.
But see, it's different than James Pearce. See, this is where I like him as a pass rusher than James Pearce. Because, again, the vertical jump, I think that shows the hips, the bendability, right? James Pearce was way less than that. The wingspan's on a different stratosphere than a James Pearce. And then why I brought up the gong stuff to start off is because 6'9" shows, again, bendability in the L drill to be able to contort. And that's like good receiver time, 6'9". So I think that says something too. Again, it might not be the most explosive first step. He might not run 4.5 in the 40. It might be 4.61. But I do think you see bendability, the 20-yard shuttle. What's that good? Start, stop, re-accelerate. How low can you get and then get out of the hole? See, those are things he's good at. The 40, I bet you he runs a 4.6 something. That's why he didn't run it. He doesn't want to show you. He's not going to do that. He's probably a 4.65 or something like that. But I bet you he has an impressive 10, and everything else off of is really impressive. I really like him. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, he might not go in the first round. He might be a guy that the NFL looks at and goes, I'm just a little concerned about the size overall, and he ends up going somewhere between 32 and 50. Okay, I can certainly see that happening, but I like him. He's in my top 5.
You never interviewed him, though, did you?
Never got to interview him.
I mean, maybe that's a mark for him. Avoided the Florio Sims landmine of an interview there. He's got brains.
He's got brains.
So there it is. There's your 5. The 5 that you like a little bit better than the rest. So we'll recap those. Your number 1 guy is in a tier by himself, the Carter Comet. It was named after him. Abdul Carter from Penn State, Shemar Stewart. It is production is disruption. Disruption is production.
Exactly. There you go. We got to start that.
Don't need sacks. Right. Mike Green did have the production, and he is also very good on tape. James Pearce, and then Donovan Ezeiruaku is your number 5 guy.
If you run into the offensive line and knock 3 people over,
you've done something.
And they go for a -3 yard loss, but somebody got the tackle. Me with all that production talk. You produced a negative play because of all the things you did. Somebody just got on the stat sheet or the paper to tackle them. And that's where I think we try to explain those things to the fans out there.
There are even more guys that you like.
There's a lot.
And we will talk about them, plus a couple other guys, too. From Georgia, maybe people wondering where those guys were and weren't in your top 5.
I know.
In other people's top 5. That's coming up next. Chris Sims has ranked his top 5 draft prospects at the edge position, but there are more dudes to talk about. This is deep. There could be a couple more guys drafted in the first round, so we got to talk about more guys. Let's start with the 2 Georgia.
Yeah, we got to.
Players, because a lot of people have them maybe even in their top 3, 2, depending on who you talk to. Let's start with Mykel Williams. because you also have Jalon Walker there. You can talk about them both together. What do you make of those guys? Where would you slot them in? Are they in your honorable mention category?
They are. Yeah,
Yes.
they're in the honorable mention. Here's something. I know you heard me talk about this, but let's just say it to everybody out there a little bit. Shedeur Sanders, we already talked about. It's going to be one of the stories of the draft. Where is he going to go? I don't think there's any way he goes 2 or 3. I don't think there's any way. I will be shocked, okay? So that's going to be a big story, right? I think there is also a little bit of a disconnect between the public, the media, all of that, and the NFL with some certain players, right? And the Georgia guys would be 2 of them. There's guys in the NFL that certainly like them, but there's definitely other guys that are like, what? Top 10, top 12 pick? That's crazy. No way.
You think the media are higher on these 2 players
I do.
than the NFL?
I think they're a little higher on him. The Ohio State receiver that we've talked about, Ibuka.
Yeah.
The damn tackle from LSU,
Will
Campbell, right? I think those are very hot-button topics in the NFL right now. Okay, who else am I missing? There's probably 1 or 2 other guys I'm missing too. It doesn't matter. But I do think that, yes, there's some guys here that I'm not sure where they're going to go. And I hear mixed things. And I definitely know people in the league. And I know I was when I broke it down where I was like, wait, I saw what you saw. When I started to break them down, I was like, but these guys are at the top of the list. They're going, and I saw this mock draft. They were both in the top 20, top 15. I turned it on, and I just went, what? Like, no way. No way are they top 10 or 12 talents, either one of these Georgia guys.
So Mykel Williams now projected top 15. What don't you like about Mykel Williams?
I like Mykel. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I do like him.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
No, but I don't like him there at 15. I don't. One, he's long. He's got some of the size we've talked about, certainly. But I think if I got him really into it, body a little soft, not explosive enough for me, not a ton of disruption, not enough physical domination. He's being a little overrated, in my opinion, because he's at Georgia, right? Is he one of these guys that maybe is a Danielle Hunter who can find a different sense of physicality and intensity in the NFL? Maybe he can, right? You know, his most wow thing is he has good change of direction for his size. That was my biggest thing for him over there.
Yeah.
For a longer guy, does move well. He's a good overall athlete in all areas. He is loose and fluid and bendable, right? Has pretty good bend around the edge, but I'm not like, wow. He has a good first step, but not as good as the other top guys we've talked about so far, right? Strong, but again, not wow strong. Kind of the same with everything. He's physical, but not wow physical. I wish he was a little more reckless and violent, right? And that to me. But some teams are going to like his size, his length, and all that. And I'm totally saying, like, I expect him to go in the first round. I do. He's just not my favorite. And I think it'll be more towards the end of the first round. I don't think it's going to be top 15 pick. I don't see that.
He does have an excuse, and there are people that say that he was playing maybe at 60% last season with his ankle injury. And so that's tough to evaluate, right? You don't know exactly how much
it is. Exactly.
And you've said this before, too. And it's like, give him credit for playing. If that really is true, if he was really physically at 60%.
Exactly.
Because you know it's only going to hurt you in the eyes of people who will evaluate
Well, sometimes
your
that's why I think the Georgia guys get a little overrated sometimes, and this might be the case because they just go, well, they're tough. They're from Georgia. Kirby Smart's been coaching them tough. I like that about them, right? But that doesn't mean their talent warrants where they're talking about here. Like the player, again, he can do some different things, certainly. He's so long. I mean, he's going to be able to play two-gap type of stuff. He's so long. He's kind of like a, strong side D end. Yes, he can rush the passer, but you also might be on third downs, be able to move him inside a D tackle and be a pain in the butt there, too.
So his teammate, Jalon Walker, is definitely a tweener.
Yeah.
6'1", 243.
Right.
So he has split snaps between edge and linebacker. Apparently, one of the team leaders on the team, I think he voluntarily played punt coverage for them too, which you don't see a whole lot of projected top 10 picks do, which he is out there right now.
Right. He's got some freaky ability. Now, yes, I look at it and go, wait, edge rusher? I mean, when it first started coming out, it was top 10 pick. And I just, wait, first off, he's smaller than any guy we've talked about so far.
Correct, yeah.
Not even close. And plays kind of small that way too. Now, he's crazy strong and physical. I love that about him. His strength is unreal for his size, for 6'1", 243 and all of that, right? But yes, as far as, again, we go back to the Shemar Stewart thing and go that. I'd go, if we took their top 20 pass rushers, there's no comparison between Shemar Stewart and Jalen Walker. I know Jalen Walker had the 6 sacks, right? And as I would challenge a lot of people, go back and watch the sacks, right? And how could you not be worried about him against bigger offensive tackles? He gets swallowed up in college at times. And that's what I was saying. There's no real impressive sacks where I go, oh, that's like the NFL. He beat the guy. He beat him around the edge. It went speed to power. He dominated him. There's not that. You're a little bit just going off the explosiveness and the physicality with this guy. But I don't know if you can pin him to definitely being an edge pass rusher in the NFL. I'm not sure. I think it might be one of those things where, yeah, it's a little bit stand-up linebacker and pass rusher. Let's see which one he's better at. Can he do it? I don't know. You know, there's a part of me that goes, yeah, he could be Bryce Huff, who's damn good, explosive off the edge. But he also could be a guy where you go, no, we can't even play him there. We might have to play him at linebacker. He's just better stand-up linebacker. So that's where I have those little questions about him overall. It's rare to see a guy 6'1", 243, right, who also did not run or do anything. And that does speak something to me because when you're that size, that's what you need to kind of pump it up to go, but I'm really explosively fast, right? I run 4.4 too. He didn't do that. And he doesn't look like he runs 4.4 or 4.5, right? So that's where I don't know where this goes. It'll be interesting. But I do think it's, again, even though I'm lower on him, he probably will go in the end of the first round. I don't doubt that.
Okay, so what about a guy like Nick Scourton, the teammate of Shemar Stewart at Texas A&M, 6'3", 257. Now, he's a projected late round 1, early round 2 pick in drafts. He was at Purdue the year before last, was one of the better defenders in the Big Ten before he transferred out of there. What'd you think of Nick Scourton?
I mean, he is a tough, physical, strong side D end, right? Good player. I'd love for him to start on my football team. But he's not the type of sexy pass rusher that gets drafted in the first round, in my opinion. He's going to be the guy that goes somewhere in the probably late 30s, early 40s. You know, can play DN, can play stand-up linebacker, right? Could play 3-technique D tackle because he has that type of strength inside, all of that. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to his page here.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
All right, so
well, I just want to make sure I just give him his due here. But you know, he's strong as hell. He is twitchy. He's quick, right? Pretty damn good at getting off blocks. He is good at getting skinny and shooting gaps and do all that. First step is just okay, right? He's looks like he played way bigger than his weight that he weighed in at the combine too. I have a hard time watching the film thinking that guy is 257 pounds.
Interesting.
There's no way, right? He looks almost like a D tackle. But he does have speed to power, right? He doesn't really threaten anybody with his speed. He's mostly all power or quicks to power. He doesn't have great bend around the edge like I talked about. Changes directions okay. Good spin move. The kid's a strong side DN, 4-3 crash in as we would call it. Has plenty of strength to go into DT on passing downs. Not a gifted enough athlete or pass rusher to be in the first round. And for him, yeah, I wrote towards 60 to 80 actually when it was all said and done.
There's one Ohio State guy you got in your honorable mentions, projected late first round, early second round pick in mock drafts. That's JT Tuimoloau.
Yeah, another one. Starting lineman, like him. Jack Sawyer gets a lot of the attention there at Ohio State as far as the edge guy.
You like him better.
This guy's better. This guy is better. And he's a little bit of the bigger guy, 6'4", 265. Arms are pretty good, right? You know, he's more of a physical bruiser type of DN rather than like some of the other guys that we talked about with speed, sexiness, flashness. But a good first step. It's not elite. He is another guy that I would say is good, fluid athlete, right? There is real talent in his ability to rush the passer. He's really physical. I mean, he's a man, really strong at the point of attack, holds his ground, sets the edge, gets off blocks, does all this for tackles, not just tight ends, right? He dominates tight ends. Tackles, he's plenty good against. And he's slippery. He can get off blocks, get to the ball, do all that stuff. A bend around the edge is good, right? It's as good. I wrote his bend around the edge is as good as the top guys in the draft. Impressive. Right? Has good, strong hands, good natural football player. He's just not as explosive as some of those top guys in the draft. But the bend is impressive.
He was a guy who probably could have gone and been drafted quite high the year before. Wanted to go back, one of those many that went back to Ohio State to try to win a national championship, and he was able to do that.
He will do
good
that
for him.
And I would be shocked if he's on the board past 50, really. I mean, I think it's somewhere 35 to 50, somewhere in that range for sure.
Also on your list of honorable mentions, Ole Miss, 6'4", 244, Princely Umanmielen.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Umanmielen.
Yep. He caught my eye. Great length, great bend, right? I think that was the biggest thing there. More than anything, that's what I was impressed with. Hold on, I'm getting to him too. I got more damn papers
projected
here.
round 2. You know, if you went with an iPad and you could just click it with your finger.
Thank you.
You get right to it.
You know, but that stuff, the length, the bend, I like all of that, right? I wish he was a little more physically reckless and doing all that, but you know, he's not real twitchy. None of that there. He's an interesting player because the length and strength he has as a natural pass rusher. He's got good spin move, natural bend. Hands are pretty good. Really only wins with the speed rush bend, nothing else. A lot of sacks and pressures. When the game was over, I didn't love that out. But there's some things here, and I think he's like a third-round pick when I really got down into him.
Yeah, he had what did he have? A 7.33 three-cone drill, so agility, a concern there.
He's definitely a long strider, slow of foot at times, right? And that's where it's a little deceiving. He's a little like some of these other guys we've talked about. 1.62 is not the worst 10. It's not elite. It's not. But I do think he's a little bit more of a build-up guy there, and he's definitely going to work on becoming a little more explosive and twitchy.
He was one of the guys that I listed through the edge that the Combine did not help them necessarily.
No,
he needed some more.
Not. The film's better than the Combine workout, that's for sure.
Agility numbers were not there at the Combine. One more guy in your honorable mention, Oregon, Jordan Burch. This is a bigger guy. This is your bigger D-end, you know, which we talk about the different techniques that you have, 5 tech or whatever, 6'4", almost 280. Jordan Burch.
Jordan Burch is... He's one exactly, and he's one of those guys where I go, he could be one of those guys that goes a little later and ends up being a 10 sack a year type of guy. He's a really good football player. He is amazing, right? I mean, bigger type of D-end, kind of a strong side D-end. He could play 3 technique because he's that good there. I love his legs. They're phenomenal. He has a great overall look in his uniform. His strength jumps off the screen. That's the thing you see right away, right? And he plays D tackle a lot. So you get to see him and you go, oh, damn, he's fine there, right? Anything run game related or strength related, you like it. There's no questions there. Stronger than his size, can go to toe-to-toe with guards, right? Dominates and can set the edge on the edge versus tight ends and tackles. Bendable athlete again, you know. And you just question the overall explosive enough to get around the edge on a consistent basis, right? But I think it's there. He does show twitchiness and his side-to-side movements and stuff of that. Really, there's not a lot to dislike about the football player. Physical, tough, right? Just not sure he's an elite pass rusher as far as first step, elite explosiveness around the edge. But he's got good eyes in the backfield, good hands, good speed to power, good bend, just average get off. I wish I would want him to start for me, right? I wrote Jihad Ward, strong side DM, disrupted 3 technique, and I think somewhere in the mid-second round.
And he did, though, get around the edge in this play against Maryland. I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, his little
direct
fake
snap,
punt. Yes.
fake punt. I mean, this is like
that's pretty
30
impressive.
yards. He's making moves, stiff arms.
I know.
Sorry,
it's a good athlete. There's no question.
Ourselves.
This is a good group of players. There's no doubt about that. He, and I believe, like, him, and I would also classify the other kid, I want to get to his name here, Antoine Powell Ryland from Virginia Tech.
Okay.
They would be one of the 2-3 guys that I would go down the line guys that could possibly be double-digit sack guys, right? There's some things there that I go, that's interesting. I like that. I like Jordan Burch a lot, though.
So those are your honorable mentions. There are a couple other players that people might be wondering, hey, what about how come Sims didn't talk about this guy? You mentioned a little bit Jack Sawyer, Ohio State.
Yep.
JT's teammate there. You're not as high on him as other people out there.
No, he's a good football player. I don't know if there's anything there that's like outstanding that where you look at that you're going to take him in the first 60 picks of the draft, though.
He's a projected round 2 pick. You would not take him that high.
I don't think so. No, I think he's going to be somewhere in the mid-third round. Right? There's just not enough physically elite attributes about him. Good football player, right? right? But this is not a pass rush specialist by any stretch of the imagination. Strong, right? He's very comfortable in the physical wrestling matches of the game for sure, right? Has bend, side-to-side movements, all good quicks. But he's a lumbering athlete overall. It's nothing like, even when he takes off as far as a speed rush, it's work. You can tell he's working. He's grinding to get around the edge, right? It's like some of the worst explosive ability out of the guys we've talked about so far, right? So good football player, got good instincts. He's strong as hell and all that, but you're not drafting him to be a pass rush specialist. You're drafting him to be tough, physical, strong side type of DN. Yeah, I think it's kind of mid-third round, early fourth is where I would see it.
Projected round 2 for an Arkansas edge, Landon Jackson, 6'6", 264. A Texas native for him. You see some people higher on him than you are.
I mean, you see the body. It's freakish looking, right? The arms aren't as long as they actually look on TV when you watch it, right? He's not some big stiff. That's what when I first saw it, I was like, oh, he's like a big Frankenstein-looking guy, actually. But he moves well, right? Side shuffles well, good change of direction, has pretty good bend around the edge and all that. He's a long strider, again, a guy that covers a lot of ground that way. Deceiving, right? Gets off blocks pretty well. He's not as strong and powerful as the other guys. Mm-hmm. He can be pushed around and off balance at times, to where I would tell you some of the other guys that we talked about, like, that just doesn't happen, right? So those are the things I didn't love about him. And he can be a little clunky because he's so long and gangly, right? But the pure physical explosion is what he needs more of. And if he can get a little bit of that, which we've seen guys like that, they're still growing. They're growing in their body. They're getting physical. They're getting thicker that way. That's where he's really got to improve, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's getting off blocks, taking off blocks, speed to power, all need to be more explosive and violent. He's a strong side DN, but I wrote end of the second round, early third for sure.
If I was to set the over-under at 6.5 edge guys taken in the first round, you would take the over or under?
I think I'd probably take the under, but just barely. Okay. I think our guy from BC is going to be the difference maker. Does he go and make it 7?
So that'll be 7 if he goes.
I think so, because I'm again, I'm not high on the Georgia guys. I don't know if I just.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think one of them could drop out?
I feel like they're both going to end up going in the end of the first, and then we'll see if the BC guy, if anybody pulls a trigger on him, but. Certainly, I think the BC guy's a top 42 pick, top 45 pick. I guess I like him a little more than the rest.
All right, so that's it. A very talented group.
Deep, got it all. Really, we could have named another group of guys to go, hey, I like this guy. They're going to play in the NFL a lot and have a good career, right?
Yeah.
That's how deep it is.
And here's the good thing about the NFL, if you need a defensive lineman, right, you got the edge, and you've given me a sneak preview, you like the tackles as well.
I like the D tackles a lot. So There's a lot of good ones.
You need to beef up your defensive line in the NFL.
This is the year. This is the year to do it. No doubt about it. And I think you've seen some teams that have tactically, as I'm going through teams and team needs, because I'm going to have to do a draft, the mock draft and all that, you start to see that, the teams have left some spots for D linemen for the draft because they know, this is deep. We're going to get 1 or 2, right? And certainly, this is one that you can prove your football team that way. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. I think we got D tackles up next.
We do on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And we got Connor will be here as well, I believe.
So we got D tackles Wednesday.
We think. We don't know. We don't want to promise that
We're not sure totally
yet.
About Connor.
Connor's got a busy schedule.
Then we got secondary next week. We'll dive into O-line. We're getting there. We're getting to all of it. But I'm excited to talk about these D tackles because, again, just like pass rusher, I think there's some special ones. And then I think there's some guys that are not quite getting the credit they deserve where I go, they might not be the top 2 or 3 guys, but they're 3, 4, or 5, and they're damn good, and they're going to go in the first round. Right. So that's what it'll be fun. Good conversation. Everybody get at me about more questions about these edge guys. Certainly would love to answer some of those at the start of the Wednesday podcast. And as always, thank you, my man, for driving the ship.
Anytime.
You are the man.
I can't wait. Big butts.
Big butts.
With pretty impressive gongs.
With gongs? I know, bucks and gongs. I mean, we got all the good stuff here. Chris Sims Unbuttoned. You know where to find us. Peace out, homies. Clap it up.
I couldn't help myself.
Thanks for watching Chris Sims Unbuttoned. Hey, just because the season's over, it doesn't mean we're over. We ain't going anywhere. The NFL never dies.
We're staying right here. Hit subscribe. We got every NFL move. We'll react to that. Plus, Chris has got 4,719 draft prospect profiles to do.
Thanks again for watching. Subscribe. You know where to find us. Peace out, homies.